So, Nancy, what do you do for a living? What are your credentials?
I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have, for the last 16 years, had a private practice where I work with children, adolescents, and adults. Traditional outpatient counseling.
And we were talking earlier, before we started to film, about a recent trip that you took. Can you tell me where you went and what the trip was about?
I, a year ago, attended the third International Conference on Transgenerational Trauma. It was a two-part conference held in Amman, Jordan, and then a week later the second half was held in Istanbul, Turkey.
And what you said,
Transgenerational trauma.
Can you tell me what that is?
Well, that's the idea that trauma is, there tends to be a generational component to trauma, that there are things that happen across generations, as opposed to this happened to me and then it's gone. That the trauma has an impact on us at a cellular level, and that it also impacts our traditions, our cultures, and how we as a people integrate experiences and react to them.
So does that include like migration patterns from your ancestors?
Migration patterns, history of trauma and how you respond to stress. Across a variety of areas.
And what are some of the ways of working with this type of trauma?
In addition to being a clinical social worker, I also have, for almost 20 years, been studying shamanism.
And what is that?
Shamanism is an approach, a spiritual approach to handling and integrating our life experiences and healing. It is based on the belief that we are all connected, that true health comes in having a balance of mind, body, and spirit, and that when something happens, it disrupts the pattern and the flow. And true health is not just resolving the problem, but taking a look at some of the spiritual and some of the deeper issues that are around the trauma. For example, if I was involved in a relationship that's abusive, then I may have learned that that's an appropriate relationship because I witnessed my parents who had a similar relationship. My children, seeing me in this relationship, believe that this is the norm. And so that's how the concept of transgenerational things can happen. I can affect change by choosing to not stay in this relationship, by developing appropriate self-care skills. But on another level, I would also take a look at how this abuser and I are in a spiritual dance with each other. Because there can't be an abuser without someone who's willing to be abused. And so some of my needs are being met, as well as some of their needs are being met. And I have to take a look at how I can resolve some of those things as well in order to be able to move on and be healthy.
What are some of the difference in treatments? If I came to you and I wanted to do work in a more non-traditional way, using some of the theory and practices from shamanism, what might that look like?
It wouldn't look, in some ways, it wouldn't look a whole lot different from traditional therapy. The way I've tried to do it is I've tried to integrate the spiritual teachings into more traditional kind of talk therapy. We would do meditations, guided imagery. In a purely shamanic sense, if you were looking at healing, then one of the things the shaman would do is look for places that your wholeness is impacted, either by having things that you don't need, or not having things that you do need, and then working to restore the balance. We talk about energy intrusions. Any woman who has ever walked down a city street knows how it feels when a man looks at her in an inappropriate or very sexual way. My teacher and I call that being slimed. You know, we all know the energy that's involved in being slimed by just how somebody looks at us. That's an example of how energetically we can be affected by somebody who never touches us, but has an impact on us.
So did you just tell me that attitude can be a projection of energy at someone?
Yeah,
My attitude towards you can be me projecting energy at you.
absolutely.
And how you receive that is how you either own that energy coming at you or how you learn to dispel that.
I think receiving it and being aware and the awareness of it. A lot of times we get zinged by people that we don't know. And it's those kind of things. And some of it is totally unintentional. Sometimes we're walking by somebody who's had a fight with somebody and they're just kind of throwing these energy darts all over the place. And sometimes it's very intentional. And how being aware of it and our ability to, it affects and improves our ability to react to it. If I've gotten slimed by somebody, I can consciously release that and slough it off. If I'm not aware of it, then it's kind of like a tick. It has a chance to kind of burrow in and, dig its way in until it's a little harder to get rid of.